Hey folks, welcome to Big Ten Double Take. I am Mike North and she is
Grace Goro.
And we are double taking today because not only is there a ton of things going on in the Big Ten this week, but there's some teams that better get it together, and one of them is Northwestern, Grace. They're going to be heading on their way to Nebraska. Now, Nebraska, after the loss to Wisconsin, seems they have their sea legs, and Northwestern right now being 1-4 in conference, 3-5 overall. If they want to be bowl eligible, they got to win maybe 3 of the last 4 games. And boy, if they could beat Nebraska, that would be huge for them.
It would be huge for them, but I think they're going to have a tough time with it. Nebraska's coming off that big win against Michigan State, and they have all this momentum going into this game against Northwestern. And with the injuries Northwestern's been having, I'm not so sure how they're going to do. What do you think? Well,
I think that Northwestern's going to go down there and they're going to be overwhelmed. I really do. I just think that to go down there, sort of like Nebraska for the first time when they went to Camp Randall. Oh my God, this looks like our home stadium. Everybody's in red, but we're not in our home stadium, and everybody doesn't like us. I think Northwestern basically is going to a state that doesn't have a pro team. Nebraska is football, so this is a whole statewide thing. I think when you go down there for the first time, I think it's overwhelming, don't you?
I absolutely agree with you.
And you know what? We're going to have Persick trying to get the job done for a Northwestern. And, Pat Fitzgerald, like I said, they have Rice, Minnesota, and Michigan at home. If they can win at Nebraska, then it makes it easier to get to that 6-win plateau. But then you might as well run the table and win 7. So we'll see what happens with that. They are heavy underdogs. Now, Ohio State forward Jared Sullinger was a unanimous selection to the All-American team. Now Jared's in his freshman year, or was in his freshman year. He's going to be a sophomore. Last year as a freshman, averaged 17 and 10. He's only going to get better. To be named All-American in your sophomore year after you came through the year before, that's fine. But our text question today, sponsored by the fine folks at Nike, Grace, and I'm going to ask you this. In line with that, we have some football news, we have Sullinger, we have some basketball news. When you think of Big Ten, do you think, and I guess it might depend on the season, but do you think of Big Ten football or Big Ten basketball? Now it's football season, but the Big Ten's got a wonderful, wonderful, glorious past in both. Even with the tradition of Michigan and Ohio State. I mean, to me, Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler, that's fine. But the argument can be made, okay, Bobby Knight, for instance. The Iowa Hawkeyes with Dr. Tom Davis. I mean, the coaches, I believe college basketball and football is more of a coaches league. The players come and go, but the guys like Woody Hayes, Kirk Ferentz from Iowa. I mean, Bo Schembechler back in the day at Michigan. I believe that our guy Pat Fitzgerald will be a 30-year guy.
Okay, but if we're talking about long-term coaches, Joe Pa.
Yeah. I knew you were going to throw that at me. I knew you were going to throw that at me. And did you see the criticism that Joe Pa is getting because he's coaching up in the booth? Now, Rick Morrissey, the Chicago Tribune columnist, lets everybody know in the paper a couple days ago, Joe Pa's not doing nothing upstairs because he doesn't talk. Well, Lovie Smith doesn't talk on the sidelines. Sean Payton was up after breaking his leg with New Orleans. He's up in the booth. He wasn't saying anything. If you've been with Joe Pa, like his assistants have for 30, 35 years, don't you think Joe Pa is on the same page with his assistant coaches and they can help get the job done?
Absolutely. And how do they know he's not saying anything up there the whole time? What is somebody watching him like a hawk the entire time going, he hasn't said a word? I mean, you don't know that. He's got his own system. He's doing what he's doing, and he's doing it well, obviously, if Penn State's 5-0 right now.
And about 2 weeks ago, there was a guy that said basically, one of the players, Joe Pa was teaching me the three-point stance. So he's a guy that actually goes to the practices, gets in the three-point stance, and you know what? He's got a bad leg from getting run over, so he decides, I'm going to go up to the booth. I'm 80-something years old. In the meantime, you got a guy like Sean Payton, who's not even 50 yet, in the same booth for the New Orleans Saints. So just take it easy on Joe Pa, because you know what? He doesn't lose anymore, and he is a Cougar. He's your favorite.
But I got to stick by what I was thinking the last time, that he's a silver fox. He's got the jet black, but he's definitely got some silver lining.
Well, let me ask you this, young lady. If Joe Pa is sitting right here right now and says, I don't dye my hair, what would you say to him?
Yes, you do. I believe him he doesn't dye it.
You think Joe Pa's magical?
He is natural.
He touches his hair and gets it done. Speaking of getting it done, I saw this on the Pulse, which is on, it was on this morning with Tim Doyle and the boys. Kim Kardashian, as you know, Chris
Ah,
Humphries.
yes.
I did not realize this. Chris Humphries is trying to make it work, and the reason he's trying to make it work, he is a Minnesota Golden Gopher who was drafted #1 by that team. Okay, now he's on the Nets. But I guess one of his things is trying to get Kim Kardashian to move to Minnesota. Now, she's the one with the money. Even though he made $3 million, she makes about $60 million. He made $3 million last year. This year, he's going to make about $6 million. There was a prenup. There was no way she's leaving L.A. to go to Golden Gopher Land, is she?
Of course there was a prenup. I mean, and there's no way she's going there. In my opinion, I think the whole thing was a sham. I gotta
Really?
say it. Well, the marriage, what
To
was
Chris
it,
Humphries,
72
too?
days?
Do you think Chris Humphries, she sat down with Chris Humphries and said, Chris, you're smart. You went to a Big Ten school. We can have this wedding and make 18 mil. We could split it up a little bit. We got the prenup. What do you think? Hey, you know what? Some people cash in on bets because the over-under is 71. Okay? So the guys who got the over go 72 days. What do you think?
Well,
Or do you think he knew nothing about this?
I don't think he went into it blind, but maybe they really were attracted to each other. Maybe they were in love for maybe a day. But I think at the end it all came down to numbers. I mean, that's what else going to be, a marriage, a 72-day marriage in Hollywood. This is
It's
normal.
Hollywood. That's what it is. Unfortunately, we're in Big Ten country here, folks. You know what? Where we have our basic values. Hey, you've been listening to Big Ten Double Take. I'm Mike North.
And I'm Grace Goro.
And thanks to our wonderful sponsors, TastyTrade.com and Nike. See you next week, folks.